All right, welcome back to the 250th episode of the Copywriters podcast. I'm so excited. I'm tinkling my pants a little bit right now. David Garfinkel, world's greatest copywriting coach, Bond Halbert, one of my favorite copywriters out there. I can't even explain how excited I am to be on this call right now with you guys.
Nathan, I get it. Yes. Well, we are back with the legendary Bond Halbert, who I'm proud to call my friend. And on the last show, Bond talked about better ways to get started in copywriting. On today's show, Bond will share with us some crucial insights about what working copywriters are doing wrong and how to fix those problems. Bond's father, of course, was the famous copywriter Gary Halbert, and Bond is among Gary's first very successful students. In fact, Bond was closest to his dad in both a personal and professional relationship. More recently, after copy chiefing some of the largest financial promotions of our time, Bond pioneered many tactics for getting the highest email open rates in any industry. And after Gary passed away, Bond and his brother Kevin took over the GaryHalbertLetter.com, and the brothers have put out great copywriting products, including the Halbert All-Star Audio Series, which I am proud to say I was invited to participate in. Bond and Kevin have also started the Gary Halbert Copy Club Facebook group, which has an astounding membership of more than 21,000 as of the day of our recording. This is huge for any copywriting group on Facebook. And Bond mentors copywriters and will give you contact info for him at the end of the show. But I have some eagerly awaited information that just can't wait, so I'll give that to you right now. Copy is powerful. You're responsible for how you use what you hear on this podcast, and most of the time, common sense is all you need. But if you make extreme claims and or if you're writing copy for offers in highly regulated industries like health, finance, and business opportunity, you may want to get a legal review after you write and before you start using your copy. My larger clients do this all the time. Now, as Nathan mentioned, this is our 250th show, and we are so happy to have Bond here, and we have something special that we'd like to do before we jump into the meat and potatoes part of the podcast. So, Nathan, why don't you start?
Well, first of all, thank you, Bond, for joining us for this episode. I'm, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm super excited about this. And I just wanted to take a little bit of a moment before we started just to kind of lay out the impact that your father had on my life. When I first got the Boron letters, everybody that I was talking to was like, you got to check out this book. I was discovering copywriting. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out. That book hit me so hard because it wasn't just about copywriting. There was life lessons, there was business lessons, and I know it wasn't written to me, but it felt like it was written to me. And so many of the experiences that your father was talking about and the lessons he was trying to convey were things that were resonating and had resonated with the background that I came from. And so the most impactful person on my copywriting career, especially in the early stages, was your father. And to be able to come back 250 episodes and have you on the show is just such a celebration for me. And I'm just so happy about it. And what you've done to continue your father's work. I got your copywriting editing book 3 for some reason. I can't find the first 2. I don't know where they're at, but I got your 3rd book a couple years back. And again, a huge impact on my copywriting. And so just to have you here and to know that you're continuing the work that your father started and to be able to celebrate this 250th episode with you is just a monumental milestone for the podcast and for my life. So I'm just super thankful for you to come on and share your insights with us today.
But wait,
Absolutely.
there's more. Yeah. So, Bond, I want to, echo everything Nathan said. Your dad had such, if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be here today writing copy. I wouldn't have this podcast, wouldn't have done everything I've done. But I want to express some appreciation to you. You've been such a support to me, and I'm and I remember that stuff. I don't forget that. You attended my high-speed copywriting seminar and promoted it with Kevin, your brother, to your list. You wrote the foreword to my book, Breakthrough Copywriting, for which I'm eternally grateful. You invited me to be part of the, I'm going to do it again, Halbert All-Stars.
And those, by the way, those came out before Russell Brunson was giving discs.
Yeah, I know. Do you remember the day I got it and I picked up my cell phone? I was out in West Pearl Avenue in front of Starbucks. I was jumping. I was pissing in my pants. I was jumping out of my skin. I was so excited. Do you remember that?
Colin? Yep, I do. I remember the call very well. I actually, believe it or not, I even did a video explaining how you could use those. Put them in the background for your podcast, like one silver one for every 50,000 listens and, gold one for every 100,000 listens, and use them as milestones and build credibility. I did a whole video on that. And then like a couple of years later, I see Russell Brunson doing the double comma club thing. I was like, hey, wait a minute.
I'll tell you, Russell was not the only one you influenced. I don't know if you've ever been to Agora's headquarters, but they have these huge metal. They're the size of old LPs, old vinyl LPs. They have them up on the wall there for copywriters who've done stuff. So yeah, as usual, Halbert sets the trend and people forget to give him credit for it, but you're used to that. You don't mind, right?
Well, I don't know if they saw the video where I explained that to the world or not, but I just know that I was doing, and then you can see that you're right, because I was very proud of even having my own version of that thing, but you'll see that in the background. Like if you're checking out, Kevin Rogers or John Carlton stuff, you'll see that in the background. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah. And you've arrived if you made that podcast or that All-Star Audio Series.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that, you earned your way in there. That we were extremely, extremely selective to make sure that the first batch were the greatest copywriters around. So you didn't get in there because you're a friend of mine. Just want you to know.
I appreciate that. I'm an idiot because I have been keeping this thing on the wall over there. I need to put it like over there so everyone can see it. Nathan, remind me to get a little smarter about my set design, my interior decorating. Well, Bondo, let's talk about mistakes copywriters are making. I know you got a bunch because we talked about it yesterday.
Okay, first I want to say that a lot of copywriters are making this mistake because their clients are making the mistakes. Okay, so that's also true. But like we talked about before, is if you learn to educate your clients, you can show them how to make more money and do things better. So I would say one of the big ones that I see is you talk to a client and you say, well, who's this good for? Who are your clients? And like, is this for beginners or is this for novices? And they say it's for everybody. And that's just not true. Or no. It could be true, but you don't want to market it as though it's for everybody. The thing is, if you are, if you study market levels awareness, they go from, I don't know, I have a problem, to I know all the solutions and I'm actually brand loyal to this one place, right? To this one company or one supplier.
Right.
And what happens is your stories, your testimonials, your headlines and all that need to be adjusted for those market levels of awareness. So taking somebody who doesn't have a problem, they have a problem. They got heart disease, but they don't know it. So when you hear people say you got to call out your target in your headline, you got to call them out by symptom. You can't say, do you know, for those with heart disease? I don't know, I've got heart disease. But what you can do is say, are you over 50 and have gained 3 inches of belly fat in the last 5 years? That's a great big sign of heart disease. And here's what to do about it, right? Now, this is just off the top of my head. But the point is, now you've called them out because they're market level awareness one, right? But somebody who says, oh, I've got heart disease, they're not even going to bother to read that, right? Yeah. So you only speak to 1 to 2 levels of market level awareness at one time per campaign. You can have 5 campaigns hitting every single one. You can have 5 different pieces of copy hitting, each and every single one and sell the same product to all of them, but you need to target all of them separately. So let's suppose you have a great local next door app program for getting referrals and local clients into offices, it works for dentists and chiropractors and all that. You don't want to do that. You want to first target the chiropractors or the dentists, and then switch it up a little bit and target the other group. And looking at copywriters, this is also true with copywriters. If somebody comes to me and they say, or somebody says, look, I'm looking to hire a copywriter. And the first response they get back from a job board says, I write copy for nonprofits. I write it for info products, local businesses. I write copy for Fortune 500 companies and small companies. I write copy for selling, supplements, financial advice, all of this other stuff. Now you own a small pizza shop, right? You get another guy who says, I just write copy for people who own small local businesses. And then you get a third person, a lady who says, I only write copy for people who, for local restaurants for local restaurants only. Who's the one that you think is most likely right for you?
Yeah, the restaurants, of course.
It's the one that's targeted you, right? So the point is you have a lot more persuasion. That doesn't mean that you can't, switch that up when you're going after the different target. So one of the things that they're doing wrong is they're trying to talk to market level awareness 1 and the higher market level awareness. And the story is the same thing that matches. So, there's 5 different kinds of stories that can really sell a product that help, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to go through them all, but it's like, there's the ones that there is the story of the history of the company. There's the story of the history of industry, like the Schlitz beer, campaign. You remember when they did that one? And it was like, they talked about how, beer was traditionally made and how it's made now, and then, built up authority and made you want their beer. There's the story of your best client, your best success story. One of the most powerful is always the story of your average customer experience. Right. And I have a system for doing this, but what it is it's going from like not knowing you have a problem to a life altering event. That means like, this is when I found out I had heart disease, and it goes all the way through to where you've like cured the problem. Right. What you want to do is that's market level awareness 1 is I don't know I have a problem. Market level awareness 2 is I know I have a problem, but I don't know what the options are. I know what the options are, but I don't know which ones to choose. I know which ones, are available. I'm trying to decide which is the perfect one for me, or which one is probably most likely to work or try first. And then there's like, I'm brand loyal. This is, I want this cardiologist out of Cedars because he's the best, So what you do is you look at that storyline, right? And you pick the chunk of the story that fits right where their head is already at, right where they're, we talk about meeting them where the conversation in their head is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that becomes the storyline. The testimonials. So let's suppose the testimonials are, you're talking to people who know that they want to become copywriters, but they're not exactly sure which is the right course for them, right? But they're looking at different courses. So your testimonials need to be, hey, I've tried, 4 or 5 different courses, and I've been through them, and I spent $13,000. This is the one that's best for this, when you're in this situation. Right. So you still have the testimonials that say it's great for the bang for the buck. You still have the testimonial that says this was really easy learning. You still have the testimonials that say this person could teach the way that I couldn't understand. But the 3 out of the 5 testimonials you're showing are the ones that are comparing that product, that course to the other courses, because that's the market level awareness you're going after. And that needs to match all the way through your copy. From the headline, you should be, tailored towards that. And what I see as a mistake that everybody's making, and the client often forces this, is they're going after everybody. One of the things I did with the book that we mentioned at the beginning is I wanted to make sure it was of value to everybody, and it was. So in there's hidden Gary Halbert psychology lessons. There's some stuff on my own on how to inject psychology. There is basic editing stuff. There is stuff from very beginner all the way to very advanced. But let me tell you who's the hardest to sell: the very advanced, right? Because most copywriters, there are a few people, and I'll call them out, you, David Deutsch, and a few others that are like, I'm constantly trying to study and learn more copywriting, and I don't stop learning ever. But so many other people have said, no, I know it all. I'm not going through another course. I'm not reading another book. They've moved on. They only read books about psychology. They only read books about persuasion. They're more likely to pick up a book on pickup artist persuasion and apply it to their copy than they are to pick up a copywriting book. right? So my targeting is towards people who are beginners and intermediate, right? But only one at a time. And the other thing that I will give as a tip is your market, when you study these things, your marketing should adjust one market level awareness and then bring them to the next one. So in my example with the heart disease patient, now I know that this might be a chance that I have heart disease. So this is the test you need to take. And if you do, this is how you test and find this out right now at home. Okay, and if this is the case, here are here are the four major options, and this one's the best one, which is of course my solution, right? It's what I'm selling.
Right. Yeah. Let me comment on a couple things. First of all, thank you for what you said about me and Deutsch. Secondly, the more experienced copywriters, or at least the more widely read copywriters, will know. But for those who don't, the levels of awareness Bond is talking about come from Gene Schwartz's book, Breakthrough Advertising, where he talks about the 5 levels of customer awareness pretty pretty early on in the book. And you can find that book online. It's expensive. It's worth every penny. It's discounted to about 90% off of what it is worth, actually. I've read it, been reading for 30 years. Uh, and Brian Kurtz sells it at breakthroughabvertisingbook.com. That's all I'm going to say about it. But in case you were wondering, what does he mean by levels of market awareness? I just wanted to put that in. And again, most of the advanced people already know this, but just in case.
Yeah, and well, and it's also something that people talk about a lot. So you'll see a lot of, and it is a great book. That's why I mentioned the market levels awareness. But you should just understand that there's a process for which everybody goes through it. Another thing is that I think we talked about it when we were chatting the other day, is they don't understand the porcupine and heat theory.
Oh
Okay?
yeah, porcupine and heat theory. I love this one.
So a porcupine spends most of its life waiting to find a mate, right? But the female porcupine is only in heat for 5 minutes at a time, right? Like I don't know what it is, but it's extremely short, and it's a very brief thing. So the male porcupine has to do everything he can to get all of his, I don't want to be graphic, but jollies off as quick as possible. The same thing is true with your marketing, because let's suppose that you have somebody who's interested in backpacking. There's a sweet spot where they are all of a sudden, they want the one thing you'll find, like all backpacker magazines all have an annual gear issue, and they all put a big section that's in gear, because they know that these people want to know what the latest and greatest gear is and so forth. And what happens is and look at yourself in this situation. How many times have you had a hobby or something else where it's like you studied all this, you were really into like music, your surround sound systems, and you're studying all this and all of this, trying to get the best music setup. And then once you get your gear, you're no longer as interested in it, right? So that means that when somebody buys an amp, it's the perfect time to sell them one of those laser reading turntables. It's the perfect time to sell them, clip speakers. It's the perfect time. So once somebody's into something, hit them with the other offers as fast as humanly possible. Don't sit there and wait to hit them with another one, because the truth is, if I'm buying a surround sound system, I've already got the speakers I probably want a year later, by a year, and you're too late. So you're leaving money on the table if you're not doing upsells and OTOs and other stuff that's already in the system. So, it's not going to hurt that they've already put in their credit card. They've already said yes. They've agreed to buying something, and it's quick. Do you want this also? Yes. Or do you not want it? No. And that boosts sales. So one of the things that I think happens is they're not selling enough quick enough. They're not hitting people, constantly. And one big one, and I want to make sure I get this in because I know that we're always on a time crunch here. Two things. Don't get caught on crutches. At the very beginning, use templates. At the very beginning, use AI, cure your writer's blocks and so forth. But if you start doing that, the very best promotions in the world are saying things that nobody else has heard before. They're framing things. So one of the things I try and teach people to do is change the way people think about stuff. The way they think about, my dad had a great campaign for dental veneers. but he didn't sell it on you'll be more proudful and he didn't even do the like you'll pick up more chicks. He talked about the money value of that investment because you're more confident and people with brighter smiles and who, this is a guy who doesn't have good teeth myself, but the people, they get higher job offers, they make more money and all that. So it gave you, and this is another tip, always give your audience the excuses they may need to explain justify the purchase to their spouses and friends because they're afraid of looking foolish.
Yeah.
And so when you say, no, I'm doing this because, it's going to help me, look, if the difference between me having a great set of teeth and a brilliant smile is the difference that gets me, I don't want to lose the woman of my dreams just because, I wasn't as attractive as I could be. Right. So,
Yep.
And I'll give you my favorite piece of BS excuse I ever had is I collect watches. And I had this, I just bought a Submariner, a Rolex Submariner. And John Carlton was like, why do you know what? A G-Shock is just as accurate and stronger. Why do you need this? I said, you know what? Having an expensive watch reminds me that my time is valuable and not to waste it. And he was like, that's a good reason. And I was like, okay, well, good that worked. That got him off my back, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when somebody wore a Submariner to a Carlton Mastermind meeting. He said, yeah, you can use that for bail. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of respect for expensive watches.
No. Actually, what he was talking about is my dad's gold Rolex bail watch, which I own. He gave it to me for Christmas one day.
I didn't realize that.
It was known as mobsters known it as a bail watch because no matter what happened, you could take that off and pawn it and get bail money to get out.
Okay, so there's more to the story than I realized. No,
but anyway, let me finish this one thing. So what they're doing wrong is they're using swipe copy wrong. This one thing will give you an advantage over every other beginner copywriter and intermediate copywriter. Okay, so what happens is the first copy, if somebody gets a client and they sell, let's say, furniture. First thing they do is they go into a Facebook group and they say, hey, can anybody send me swipes on furniture ads, right? And so pretty soon they're writing an ad, they've been influenced, and guess what it sounds like? Every other furniture ad that's been run out there, okay? And that's a mistake. If you're going to use swipe files and you use them at the beginning, but what I would recommend you do, and this really gives you a huge advantage. Take the swipe files and make a copy of every single one. So you have 2 swipe files. One is the whole ad. The second one should be all cut up. It should be, this is just headlines. This is a swipe file of just headlines. This is just opening copy. These are just bullets. These are just closing arguments. These are just postscripts. These are just all of these other things, because now when that's the part where you're struggling with the copy, right? Because what happens is you have a template and they say, I need a hero's journey. That doesn't work for me. I can't tell you how I was sleeping in my car until I discovered copywriting. Everybody knows I was given a gift by my father. But the Bourne letters that you mentioned earlier, every other page is Dear Bond, here's how to write copy. Right. So I don't have the sleeping in my car hero's journey, right? And I can go back to the time I was depressed or something like that.
What you're saying is good for a reason you might be thinking, but I don't think you've said it yet. And that is, if you have what I would call a horizontal swipe file, that is a swipe file where we just have headlines for, I forget the furniture stores, and we just have stories and across a lot of different ads. One of the most time-tested ways of coming up with something that seems really new but doesn't freak people out is combinations of different known things. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, and from different places, though. See, that's the thing. My furniture ad's not going to sound like you because I've looked at different things. And so I'll give you an example. Somebody once told me they had a friend who owned a bar, and they cut the friend a deal, and they created the coffee tables for the bar. And they said, but that person was going to allow them to put like a QR code or a plaque on each of the tables to help promote their business. And they said, what should I do? Well, before COVID, I would have said, don't use a QR code. After COVID, everybody's used to QR codes for, all kinds of reasons, because they're doing contactless menus and things like that. But anyway, I said, check out this short, URL to see the amazing story of how this was made. Turns out these things are made out of X boxcars, okay,
wow.
from the railroads. And
Wow.
so this is, by the way, mistake that copywriters make. They don't interview their clients long enough to get the gold. The gold is in there. They don't talk to you about it until they're actually. He didn't even bring this up.
This is counterintuitive until you've been through it a few times. When the guy says, "Oh well, nobody's interested in that," everybody's interested in that.
It is amazing how much they think people don't care. And I said, okay, this is what you do. You create you on each one. You say this one, and made from boxcar number 15643. Get the number from it. Then you tell the story. This boxcar used to carry oranges from California back to Denver and cattle from thing. In fact, you'll notice there are still some hoof prints, and there's a special patina that comes from the orange juices that have been laid out on the thing. And this is also since these were made back before all the old growth forests were cut down for lumber. So that's why when you see these really fine lines in the wood, that's old growth wood. It's also very ecologically friendly because you're reusing wood versus cutting down new trees that you have to waste fresh water on. And here's a video showing you, like, this is the trail. This is a high-speed version of the route that this train car used to make for 100 years between 19. Do you understand the story value is now making you want this freaking thing?
This is $1 million copywriting lesson. Everybody should rewind and listen again. It's really good, Bond. Thanks.
And I said, you know what? Take the wheels, take the stuff. Take the wheels and make them bases for lamps to sell accessories, that match, and melt down that steel and use it. That's what the legs were used for the thing. And so this was stuff he did not mention until I started bringing up this stuff. And so a client will sit there for hours before telling you, oh, by the way, one of our favorite, one of our clients who says that our rejuvenation cream is the best is Christy Brinkley. Oh, well, why you didn't bring that up before? You'll be surprised what they don't bring up. So you have to interview your clients. And then John will call it a lot of people, it's actually been around forever, the so what test, so you talk to the engineers, the product manufacturers, and you say, why do you use this kind of steel in your bracelet? Because you say it's 311 steel. What's the point of that? Oh, it's because it's scratch resistant. So you say, what's the point of that? Well, people bang their watches on doorknobs all the time, so it'll keep it looking fresh for 20 years to come. Now you have copy. Your bullet now says, hey, with this 20L steel, it gives you your best chance at this still looking like a brand new timepiece 20 years later, because it won't scratch easily like the other alloys that most manufacturers use. But anyway, the point that I want to make is, if you're doing that copy, right, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, now I need a subject line. I found the perfect story. I'm stuck on closing copy. You go to your closing copy file. You're not stuck in a template that says hero's journey, that says this, that says that says this, because the chances of you matching perfectly with a hero's journey, the same curiosity, the same benefit, and everything else in a template to your product or offer is very slim. Your chances of finding something that's going to fit, looking at all the different industries for that component you're struggling with, are great. So your copy will come out, and then you, of course, edit it and make it smooth and flow. But the point that I'm making is, if you break up that swipe file into headlines, closing copy, opening copy, in every little component thing that you can find, I off the top of my head, but there's even, like postscripts. Postscripts are like, by the way, an amateur might say, by the way, happy holidays, or hope you have a great summer, right? There are certain formulas that you can use for if you have nothing else. So a postscript formula I give everybody is just say, P.S., remember, and then you restate the benefit and the sense of urgency. Remember, I can get you on the road to becoming a paid copywriter faster than anybody else, but there's only 5 spots left in my group. Okay. So what that does is it makes you got to remember there's another mistake that they made. They don't understand the format and the experience that the person is getting while they're reading their message. Are you reading a letter? Are you watching email? Right? Or reading email, because people constantly say, send your email out at 4 a.m, so it's there when they wake up in the morning. You are probably like me. right? Which is to say that when you wake up in the morning, you got your finger on the delete button trying to get a handle on your day and ignore everything you don't have to deal with. But if you're checking your email on a Saturday night or Sunday, you have more time and you're more leisurely and might be more willing to dive in and take a look at things, right?
Yeah. No.
The same thing is true for all these different medias and all of these different systems or formats, to understand where they are, when they're going to be getting this message, what their mentality is. You are a different person on Monday morning when you wake up with anxiety and a lot of crap to do than you are on Saturday morning when, you know, the hard, stressful week is behind you.
Yep. Some of the advanced value that you have shared with us today is simply taking what people already do, but taking it to the next step, going one step further. In other words, instead of just getting into the conversation going on in your prospect's mind, you're talking about get into the experience they're having in their life when you think about when they're going to actually open your email and respond to it. So it's again, if you have the first principles, if you have the basic fundamentals, then you build upon them, and that's what I'm hearing. That what
You're
saying?
100% correct. You know, when you hear the A-Pal B-Pal speech of my dad like 100 times, right? As a kid, you get it on a cellular level. So everybody's like, well, they could only take it and they could only apply it to, they were only applying it to snail mail, right? And I was like, no, you don't understand. The concept is, how are people experiencing getting their mail? They're, you know, his A-Pal B-Pal speech was about coming home and being tired and looking, sorting through it over a wastebasket and everything. I'm like, how do people get emails? And so, you know, when it's easier now to do it without, you know, it's not as important, but it was really important when I pioneered this kind of technique, where I noticed that the first thing people did was they sort their emails with different email addresses. Everybody's got a spam email address.
Yeah.
Everybody has a primary email address, a work email address, and maybe a hobby email address, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the marketers are like worried about not being spam and putting free in there. They're worried about spam filters, right? But the truth is, if you're in a primary email address and you see that there's a couple spam messages, you will sometimes go look to see if there's anything you've missed. But when it comes down to somebody promised you something, but they're only giving it to you if you give them an email address, you don't know them from Adam. So you give them a spam email address. You go check out the PDF they sent you. You either ignore or delete the 500 messages that have built up into that thing. So the moral of the story is, worry about getting a spam email address. I mean, it's better to have your mail go to a spam box of a primary email address than it is to go into the primary box of a spam email address. So worry about getting a primary email address first. But this is the last thing I'll say. Understanding the experience is so important, that what I did was I said, what makes me give a primary email address? And so I teach people to, like, you know, first use a Facebook sign-on login, because the truth is everybody wants to know if somebody's talking about them on Facebook, so they don't give a spam email address, right? So you get a primary email address. The other thing is, I noticed that, like, I would say, hey, we throw a lot of flash last minute sales that go quickly, and people get mad at us because they didn't enter a primary email address they check often and missed it. So we won't spam you or anything, but be sure to enter a primary email address you check often. And that gets more people to enter, would get more people to enter it. The concept is not just take that tactic. That's a good tactic. It's valuable. But the concept is, I was paying attention to how people sort their emails. I was paying attention to what makes people give a primary email address. Read Obvious Adams. I don't know, it's not really a real story, but it is a great short thing that makes you understand. Understanding the customer experience will give you a greater advantage than creative writing skills and being flowery with words or anything like that. The last thing I want to say, though, is I think that the first thing everybody learns how to do with copywriting is how to write headlines. I think that not nearly enough are studying closing copy. I think people should study closing copy. You should practice writing closing copy first, and you should study editing copy. It's not just to be a push. It's the thing. These are the things that I see amateurs make a mistake in doing. So, just one editing tip is to edit in a complete pass, because I see people, they edit, they go down, they find a mistake, they fix it, they go back and start reading it again, and they go until they find a mistake and they edit again. And read your copy out loud. But by the time they get to the bottom, that's been looked at once, and that's where the closing copy is. That's where the sale is made, right?
Yep.
The top is all smooth, so I can tell an amateur copywriter just by reading their entire piece and going, "Oh, okay, yeah, you really, you didn't go through this and then let it rest and then come back and read it again." So those are the big mistakes that I think I see a lot of copywriters make.
Can I chime in 2 things before we're out of here?
Sure.
So I don't know if I got this from you, Bond. I feel like I did, but it maybe came from somebody else. But just asking for the primary email address in the form where it says email, just changing that to best email or primary email, jacked up my open rates and my click-through rates amazingly. So that was a testament to that. And then a thing for myself that I've experienced with my clients, running a 3-day promotion or a 4-day promotion that ends on Friday. In marketing and copywriting, we know most of our conversions are going to come on the last day, sometimes the last hour of the last day.
Yep.
If the last hour of the last day is on a Saturday rather than on a Friday people are burnt out. You'll still get that jump in conversions. But I've noticed, you were talking about Saturdays. I noticed when we run the last day on a Saturday, the mindset of the people, the energy level of the people reading those final emails, we've always gotten higher conversions on Saturday ending a promo than Friday. So some amazing insights there.
Thank you. Yeah, and that was stuff that I've been promoting for a long time. So, but that was a pioneer breakthrough that I made many years ago. And but again, it came back from the fundamentals of going through and understanding, what my dad was teaching. That's why I always say, look, you can get the boron letters on our website, but if you get the book, it's actually got these extra bonuses, and that's where things like that are in there, from the APAL BPAL speech and the updated version, and like, here's the core principle behind that makes, and how to use that and adjust the tactics today. Like, people think 900 numbers are dead. They are dead, but there's still the same thing still applies for text messaging, quick text codes that you get paid for. It's a small tiny bit of information that you trust the person who's going to be taking the money, which is your phone company, and you say, hey, do you want your daily horoscope lucky thing? If you ever need it in a hurry, just text this 5-digit code. It'll cost you $2 through your phone, and then boom, you got it. It's the same thing as a 900 number, right?
I have an original copy of the boron letters. I have no idea which box it's in, so I'm going to buy a new one. I'm just going to. I will.
So just a couple notes that I was looking up here is anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And what that means is, you want to sell something, and if you can, it's always better to fail fast, as they say, and try and get something out there. Don't worry about perfecting your copy and spending 6 months, getting it and proofing it and all that. It's better to get something ugly and sloppy out. One of the things that we quickly did was we were going to do a sale real fast, and we didn't have time to write up everything. So what we did was I just did a 3-4 minute video. And it was like, I wrote down the points of what I wanted to do and put that video out there. People could see that the video was only 3 minutes. They're like, sure, I'll listen to this. They clicked on it, and then we had lots of sales come in, and then you did the reminders, to get that, what you're talking about, we call the hockey stick effect, which is, you get the sales start here, and then they go down, and then they go up at the end. You know what I'm saying? Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, because it's better to know something's just dead in the water and not going to work and move on. And then when something works, then you fix it. So when my dad wrote the world's most widely mailed sales letter in history, the coat of arms letter, what he ended up doing was he ended up putting 18 months of psychology into it. He didn't put 18 months of psychology into it before, and I've never mentioned this before, he didn't put those 18 months in before publishing it the first time. Those 18 months were put in perfecting it, because he tested it and he knew he had something, and then he spent 18 months perfecting it. So he taught me anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Don't, it's better to get out there and, see if you've got something with legs. And then if it's going to be in your autoresponder for 10 years, slowly tweak it and peak it, fix it and add things and test and stuff like that.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, so I started out the conversation today talking about how excited I was that I almost tinkled my pants. Now I feel like I've been hit with a fire hose of information throughout this episode. So that escalated rather quickly. Bond, again, thank you so much, man, for coming on and sharing all of these stories, all of these experiences, all of these insights with us. I super appreciate it. I'm speaking for David right now, but I know he's just as excited as I was about this. And if people want to connect with you, is there a way that you would recommend?
Yeah. If you want to email me, you can do that at bond@thegaryhalbertletter.com. My dad always wanted to make sure there was a "the" in there. But you can join our Facebook group and you can also go to my website, bondhalbert.com, as my dad would say, cleverly named. But my dad's website was thegaryhalbertletter.com. It is what I would call the online mecca for copywriters. It is, you'll be in the copywriting world for a couple of months before you hear the last name Halbert. But and everybody talks about Gary Halbert, but now they're also, as you mentioned at the beginning, they're now starting to talk about me as well as somebody who teaches and makes breakthroughs in helping people struggle with the hardest parts of copy, storytelling and curing the writer's block, getting the words flowing after you know what you're doing and stuff like that. But I want to say real quickly, and this is a shout out for David here. What we do is people don't come to us and say, "Hey, will you sell our course?" And we say yes. We've had really famous copywriters try and sell their course. And we turned around and said, no, we're busy right now. But the truth was we went through it and we wouldn't put our name behind it. And for a long time, I always said that, we've talked about at the beginning, you can start being of value to your clients immediately if you understand templates and you understand the value and the disadvantages so that you can take care of the disadvantages of AI and stuff like that. David's course was the first one that I would recommend to anybody. I think the words that I use, in which I still stand by, is if you need to have an ad written by the end of the weekend, his is the best course you have. I mean, there are other courses, and by the way, people will have more than one course. They will have more than one program. Really great copywriters will have gone through a couple of different mentors. It's not always a one shot, but I just wanted to do that shout out because we're talking about mistakes in newbie copywriters and everything. Like I still put my name and my weight behind David's course. It's fantastic.
Thank you. And if people are searching madly for the course, it's going to be relaunched as a digital course. It was, CD and workbook course, and Stan Dahl is putting the finishing touches. We're just working on the sales copy now and in the funnel and blah, 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 all that, all of the little details that go into a launch. But I would say by February or March, it's going to be up there. It's called High Speed Copywriting. Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you for saying that.
Okay. Again, a fantastic episode, gentlemen. Thank you so much for making this happen. And if you want to check out more episodes of the podcast, it's over at copywriterspodcast.com. And until next time, we will catch you later.
Catch you later.